Auburn's wide receiver room, impossible to predict, which feels weird because they all played together already.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on in to Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Happy Charlie Tuesday to all who celebrate. Auburn message board legend, the Charlie 5, also known as Kyle Rush. He's the man over at thebarnauburn.com. Which non-wide receiver will lead Auburn in receiving yards, as well as, who could be next up, maybe a dark horse in the wide receiver room this offseason. But I thought it'd be fun, Kyle, to go through this receiving room and say, hey, so-and-so is going to lead. They're going to be number 2. They've got a chance to be the number 3 guy. And as I was sitting down to do this, and I guess you were doing the same thing too, I wonder if you had the same situation. It's a fascinating discussion and thought process because there's so many questions about all these guys, but it's weird because they have all played in this offense. It's not like it's a bunch of different guys with varying levels of upside and skill and production coming together. It's guys that have already had production together, following their coach, following their quarterback. And so when you predict what the production could look like at Auburn this year, is it too lazy to just look at what they did at USF last year and say that the pecking order that happened at South Florida is most likely the pecking order that we'll see at Auburn? Is that entirely fair? I think in most cases it is fair to say that.
Yeah, I do too. It's really after the first 2 guys is when you could kind of flip a coin and see what you think, because like there are 3, 4, and 5 receivers, there wasn't a ton of separation as far as statistics, catches, things like that. The only thing that really jumps out to me where I'm like, could this guy make some noise would be Chaz Nimrod was really having a good beginning to the season. He's averaging over 20 yards a catch. And he's coming in. He's got a ton of experience. 3 touchdowns, almost 500 yards receiving, and he got, like I said, got injured. So could he be better than we think he's going to be? But they're all like the same guy. You know what I mean? They're all so similar. They're all 6'2", over like around 200 pounds, and they can
outside
all run.
guys. Yeah. And then there's Neptune, who's like the slot guy, which is, fun to see him and Bryce Kane in the room together. But you're right. You're absolutely right. And when you look at the numbers, like you said, there's not a ton of separation after Keyshawn Singleton. And you look at the average yards per catch. Keyshawn Singleton, 17.5 yards per catch. Jeremiah Coger, 15.7 yards per catch. Chaz Nimrod, 20.3, like you said. Christian Neptune, 8.8, which is reasonable, for a slot guy. It's going to be a little bit lower. Can you do that in this conference? Like these massive plays that you were having over and over and over again, essentially getting well over a first down every time you catch the football. Is that realistic to expect in this transition from South Florida to Auburn? That's where I have some pause because I don't think those numbers are going to be as high. If they are, oh my goodness, it's going to be so fun in the Alex Golesh era of Auburn football, and hopefully that happens. But what happens if they're not, making their money or making their production with these big plays? And so then you look at the skill set of, all right, who's better in tighter spaces? Who's better, in catch and run situations or catching in traffic or, whatever it might be. And to me, that typically goes to the older guys, which in this room will be Keyshawn Singleton and, to your point, Chaz Nimrod. But that transition to me is the biggest thing is, okay, you're not going to get, I hope I'm wrong. Goodness gracious, I hope I'm wrong. But you're not going to get 15 yards a pop every time you catch the football in the Southeastern Conference. But man, if they do, Kyle, buckle up.
Yeah, and I don't know that is what, at least me, I don't know that's what I'm expecting, to literally just carbon copy it over
and
see the exact same. results. Like you said, it would be fun. But the thing is, you kind of touched on it. You're going to have to achieve it in different ways. It's probably not going to be just running by people and hitting verticals all the time. You know, you might see the average yards per catch go down, but you may see receptions go up. Like,
Sure.
you know what I mean? Like that could be what you see. So I don't know that you're going to be able to just stamp it and just move it like guy for guy, what you did last year or this year. But I wouldn't be shocked if these numbers for the most part are pretty similar. You have a guy around, 800, 900 yards, and then you have 4 or 5 guys that are all right around that, from anywhere from 400 to 600 yards receiving. That kind of feels like the way this offense really kind of works.
Yeah. Which is a good thing. And it makes it kind of impossible to predict, but I'll take a stab at it. I have Keyshawn Singleton leading Auburn in receiving. Then I have Jeremiah Coger, then Chaz Nimrod, then Neptune, who's out of this world. And then I have Bryce Kane. As the 5th receiver when it comes to receiving yards.
My question was, where was an Auburn guy, and I say Auburn guy, where was a previous Auburn guy going to fit on that list? I'm curious to see what they do with Duke Smith. Because I think he's got some freakish athletic ability, like some of these, and can run like these South Florida guys do, especially after the catch. But the true slot guy, that battle between him and Neptune could be very interesting. And if you are doing 2 wide on both sides and you have 2 slots, that could be something to watch for sure.
And who of these guys that played outside of South Florida would you expect to be able to play in different spots? I think that's Coger. I think
he's so big.
Yeah, I mean, he could do a lot of stuff. He's a matchup problem.
Some of those workout videos, he's a very big kid, and he's only a sophomore. He's only in his 2nd year. He's going to be a lot to handle. It feels like the bigger he gets, though, the more kind of locks himself into what an outside guy would be. To me, Nimrod's the guy that could flex, and you could put him all over the field because he's longer, but he's still got that explosion and quick twitch ability.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how much they move the receivers around, but just because of the whole, veer and shoot and tempo thing. Like, you want to line up and go and not have to think that much, which is the whole point of the offense, which I love. And I know you're going to move the tight end around, and you might do some different stuff with the backs, and your slot guy is going to move around. But I think you're going to probably pretty much primarily have those 2 outside guys stay outside, is what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. They get them outside those hashes, and they pretty much keep, like you said, they keep 1 on 1 and 1 on the other side.
Yep, spread it out. Love it. There's several guys, though. There's 4 dudes where I don't really know what you do with them. And the upside is tremendous. And there's also a chance that they don't crack the rotation. I want to jump into some of that next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. As far as moving the game forward, Keyshawn Murphy on Saturday. Best game as an Auburn Tiger. I don't think I'll get much pushback on that. He was incredible in Auburn's win over Kentucky. Mazda puts that same passion into every model. Highlights to make the real. What it takes to get there is what makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. If you've ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person, now you can. You can turn that dream into reality if you win the NBA sweepstakes at FanDuel. Right now, use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, flights, tickets, and the whole experience there, which is super, super great. Also, for what it's worth, Auburn baseball, the 7th best odds, according to FanDuel, to win the College World Series. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for a chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. There's a handful of guys, Kyle, in this receiver room that I just don't know what to do with. I don't know what to think of. And I do think they have upside. Corey Pettigrew is the South Florida receiver that came over with all these other guys. And it's like, okay, curious to see how he fits. I don't think he's a plan for the 2026 season, but could he be a guy?
Could he be your Nimrod, Chaz Nimrod replacement? Because they're similar.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that was the plan at South Florida. And he's like, hey, come on. Like, let's just do this at the SEC level, which is interesting. He being Golesh, took Pettigrew and didn't have to, which is saying something.
Well, he was one of the first commits too, and I remember people kind of freaking out, starting to freak out.
Yeah, him and Lachlan Hewlett, and I'm like, they're trolling us.
Yeah,
they're trolling us right now.
Yeah,
but that's okay. That's okay. Sam Turner, I think it's interesting. You mentioned Duke Smith, his brother Eric Smith. I also think is interesting. Kind of got the size. But then a guy that I can't stop thinking about how he fits into this offense early is true freshman Deshaun Spencer. I think he's like good enough to where it's like it's worth questioning. Like, can you keep him off the field? He's going to probably be my freshman of this class that I talk about way too much, and then he ends up just not even being a part of the rotation. But I think Deshaun Spencer's electric.
Well, I mean, when you talk about a guy who put up better numbers at Saraland than Ryan Williams,
come on.
I mean, why wouldn't you think that he's got a chance to be something special? And he's a guy that
Ryan Williams got engaged.
Yeah, congratulations.
Congrats to him.
Why wouldn't he? Always seems like a guy that plays bigger than what his height and weight actually is.
Right.
And there is a role for that player in this offense, as you can look by the stat sheet. So he almost has like a smaller Eric Singleton vibe to me, like watching him on film, like somebody that can do more than just run routes. Now, I trust Golesh to be able to make him into something other than someone that doesn't run routes that you get the ball to, like we saw last year, but maybe utilize both. I'd love to see him catching, some screens or jet sweeps or things like that, but not only that. I think he can be a good first down target, going over the middle or, those sit down routes in between zones. Like, he seems like he could be somebody that could do that and break a tackle and go 80.
Yeah. I think a name that Auburn fans are going to want to talk about this spring is Sam Turner.
Yeah.
I love the idea that he's on this roster still.
Yeah.
I love the upside. I just think the role he's going to play, I don't see him passing Singleton or Coker.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Or Nimrod. But it sounds like he thought about leaving. Did he enter the portal or say he was leaving?
Yeah, he did.
That happened, right?
He did, and then I think we kind of.
I wonder what happened there.
Yeah, I think he went in, and we kind of like changed our mind. They kind of like changed their mind and wanted him back. So he's so much like Jeremiah Coger. Like, I feel like body type and I don't know about top end speed and athletic ability. And he was injured too at the end of last year. So how is he going to be? Is he going to be back to full health? Because this spring, I think, is huge, huge, huge for him.
Yes.
But he's so much like Coger to me that could be an interesting dynamic, an interesting battle. There may not be very many other spots where he could go in and be successful. It may just be that outside spot.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm happy, pleasantly surprised that he came back during that sequence. But like you said, if he was banged up towards the end of last year, like, how much did he have to give up some leverage because of that? I mean, I know that sounds awful, but like, that's got to be part of it,
Right.
So if you had to guess right now of these kind of toss-up guys that we think are good enough to get in part of the rotation, they just got to do it. Who do you think leads Auburn in receiving out of these guys?
So you're
Bryce
talking
Kane,
about, okay, you're going to give me the list. Sorry.
I'm giving you a list. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Bryce Kane, Corey Pettigrew, Sam Turner, Duke Smith, Deshaun Spencer. I thought you'd say Bryce Kane right out the bat, and then I was
Yeah,
do it again
I
without
think
him.
I think two of the Auburn guys. I think between Bryce Kane and Duke Smith, I would take off that list. I think both of those guys are more gifted in the spot that I think the most playing time is going to be available. I think those two are the most gifted out of that list.
Okay, and then let's just for the sake, I agree with you, and so for the sake of the discussion. So the remaining three: Sam Turner, Corey Pettigrew, Deshaun Spencer.
I would say Deshaun Spencer probably next, Corey Pettigrew, and then Sam Turner.
Wow. Okay. I would have put Pettigrew at the end, just because of the question marks. But there's question marks about Sam Turner too.
Sure. To me, those guys are all maybe
they're a year away.
Know. Yeah, they're all a year away, so it's tough.
And
they
it's
kind of
still
feel
wild
like
to me that we didn't add a receiver from anywhere other than South Florida. Like, that's still wild to me.
Well, I mean, you know what? Yeah, that's wild. But something else that I noticed, there's a guy, if you notice, there's a guy from South Florida on offense in every single position group too. Like,
right.
If you look, like all the position groups were covered too. I thought that was kind of interesting. It's like they wanted one guy so they could, that whole culture of the whole on the offensive side, they got at least one for every single position group. But you're right. There was no wide receiver anywhere else. I'm trying to even think if there were any that we were trying to get. Like, it
looks like we were pushing hard for that NC State guy. I forgot his name, and I don't even know where he went. But that was the one I feel like we talked the most about.
Noah Rogers.
That's right.
I think is his name. And there was one other guy. It escapes me. There was two that we were somewhat we were pushing pretty hard for, and they just, went elsewhere that weren't.
Yeah, they knew they wouldn't play over the South Florida All-Stars, baby.
The South Florida.
I can't
South
wait
Florida
to see
studs.
this offense, man. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I want to go back and watch the offense. I want to go back and watch their offense against everybody, just to get a crash course.
Yep. All right, which non-wide receiver will lead Auburn in receiving? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. We talk a lot about fit, whether it's coaching searches, whether it's players coming over. It's the same when you're running your small business. Kyle, you know this. It's about fit. And Indeed is the best when it comes to finding the fit for the job that you have posted. They do a great job of kind of tailoring all of the strengths and all the resumes that come in for your position and saying hey, here are the people you need to interview. You don't need to go through all of these. We've done it for you. These are your guys. You're busy. Interview these people. You're welcome. Indeed saves you so much time. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast, Indeed.com/podcast. Need to hire? That's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Alumni Hall. Alumni Hall is where I want to be 24/7. Whether it's admiring the hat wall or looking at all of the fun kind of knickknacks that are out throughout the store, whether it's, tailgating stuff or stuff for your walls or stuff to put on your desk. Oh, they have everything. They have everything at Alumni.
You can imagine.
Yeah. It's insane.
Stuff for your pets too. I mean,
pets, children, doesn't matter what age, they've got you covered. Head over to any of their physical locations. They've got one in Auburn off of South College Street. They also have one in Opelika that's in Tigertown. That's the one I frequent the most. And of course, you can go to alumnihall.com if you are not local. So shout out to Alumni Hall for sponsoring Locked On Auburn. Final few minutes on today's edition of Locked On Auburn. I think this is a fun conversation as far as, okay, which non-wide receiver can lead Auburn in receiving? So you're going to have your top 4 or 5 guys. For the sake of conversation, at South Florida last year, you got Singleton, Coger, Rubin. So your top 5 receivers,
We're
receiving
all
yard
receivers.
leaders were receivers. And then you had Wyatt Sullivan, their tight end, who had 18 catches. A few spots back, you had Alvin Isaac, their running back, with 14 catches. Jonathan Eccles, now with Auburn, the tight end, had 9 catches. So they don't throw to the back a ton.
When I've done this exercise before, because for whatever reason, I felt like this would be a good throw to the back out of the backfield offense, like extension of the run. You know what I mean? Those kind of swing passes. But like you go look at South Florida, you go look at when he was at Tennessee, he just doesn't really throw to the running back that often. So,
and there were a few backs that had like 4 catches, like multiple backs had 4 catches. And so I assume that'll happen.
So if you're hoping for a bunch of receiving yards, I like Jeremiah Cobb or somebody like that, is probably not going to happen. Maybe and it could be that he just hasn't had that true, big time receiving back yet. But yeah, he just doesn't really throw. It's pretty much wide receivers or tight ends. So I think the discussion is like which one of those tight ends is going to break out and be like your big reception getter.
Yeah.
Instead of just another
can
blocker.
Any of these tight ends or running backs get to 200 yards receiving? That really seems to be the number. And my gut is Jeremiah Cobb, but for just looking at what South Florida did last year, I'll say Jake Johnson, the tight end transfer from North Carolina.
Do you think that's going to be your top guy? You think that's going to be your tight end?
I think they'll use 2, and I think it'll be Johnson and Eccles.
So you're probably right, and like I'm not going to argue that. I'm very intrigued though by this kid from Bowling Green.
The ULM kid?
No, the one from Bowling Green, Arliss Boardingham, because he was all SEC freshman at Florida, and had 4 touchdowns his freshman year. I know he's battled some injuries, but something about him, man, he's got something. And if he's healthy, I just wonder how he factors in, because again, he's done it at this level. I mean, I looked at his game logs, a couple from 2023 and 2024. I mean, you're talking about having essentially 100-yard receiving game, 7 catches against Vanderbilt. He's had, good games against Tennessee. He's had good games against your traditional teams that Florida plays. I don't know. I kind of think this guy could maybe sneak in there and make some noise.
Yeah. How much of an advantage does Eccles have? Because I think Jake Johnson is your tight end 1. I'd be shocked if he wasn't. Eccles is athletic, moves well, physically gifted, and I think can do stuff athletically that other guys can't in the room. And Eccles was a big deal. At the time, he still might be the highest recruit that South Florida had. He was at the time they got him. Got him from Tennessee, and that's a Golesh thing. Golesh was, he's a tight ends guy. So I just wonder how much of an advantage he has as far as a relationship with the offensive coaching staff, familiarity with the scheme. It's like he was a piece. Like, he wasn't a star in the South Florida offense, played a solid amount, but he wasn't the tight end last year. He was a tight end. Can he come in and be a tight end at Auburn? I think there's less questions about him than some of these other guys. Hunter Herring's fascinating too, the ULM former quarterback. I just think it's so hard to transition to tight end at any point in your career, especially as a senior. It's so tough to play. I mean, you've got to run routes like a receiver, and you got to block like an offensive lineman. That's just a lot to ask somebody to do late in their career. But I think Eccles is number 2 if I had to guess right now.
I wonder what it's like. And again, I don't really have a good argument otherwise. I'm intrigued by Boardingham, but I like both of those guys too. And there's a dynamic here of having a head coach who's a tight end guy. But for whatever reason, the tight ends don't seem to get that much into the game as far as the passing game goes. Maybe that plays a lot more into the, run the, you know what out of it mindset, have some bigger bodies, have a lot of athletic guys, and that's more of his bread and butter. But yeah, it's a cool dynamic, and that's another room where I wouldn't be shocked if any of the names we listed carved some type of rollout and was able to contribute. This offense does feel wide receiver heavy though. Like it's very reliant on wide receiver production.
Yes. And that's okay. That's fine. And that'll be super, super fun to see. Run it with your quarterback, run it with your running backs, and then try to stretch the field with these wide receivers on the outside. Have no issue with that at all. Kyle, how can people check out everything you've got?
Absolutely. Go to thebarnauburn.com. Subscribe today. Any one of our shows on the Barn YouTube page and anywhere you get a podcast, the Barn Podcast Network.
Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.